getting hit multiple times coming out of that bike section. More drivers coming to blows.
Does your feet hurt after a session of sim racing? Are you tired of the distraction from soaring? If so, D-Nut Stuff has the solution for you. Our heel pads add support and comfort for your feet, so those long races are no longer painful. We can make a heel pad for pretty much any pedal set and even add your custom logo. So get one today. You won't regret it.
I can't count the times a race has been ruined by an AI car. The default iRacing AI drives like you are not even there much of the time. If you're like me, you want AI that is fun to race, not a demolition derby. I have spent a ton of time adjusting these AI rosters to make them as realistic as possible. The D-Nut Stuff adjusted AI rosters are more like racing a real person. The adjusted AI rosters will drive much, much cleaner than the default settings. Check them out. You won't regret it.
Is the brake on your new pedal set not meeting your expectations? If so, let D-Nut Stuff transform your braking experience. D-Nut Stuff has brake mods for Thrustmaster TLCMs, Husingveld Sprints, Mosa SRPs, Fanatec CSL Elite V1 and V2s, SimJack Pros, and UT sets. We are always working on adding new pedal sets and more, so check back often.
Tonight, the American Muscle Series heads to Norway, where the world-famous Rudskogen becomes host of tonight's race here on Slow Motion Broadcasting. Good evening, good afternoon, and good morning from wherever you are watching from live here on Slow Motion Broadcasting for tonight's broadcast, sponsored by D-Nut Stuff and Chiba Hut. My name is Adam Thomsen. Joining me in the broadcast booth, as always, is Jeremy Scott, and the man behind the cameras is Ron Maunz. Well, Jeremy, tonight we are at a very, very difficult racetrack to navigate around, and this nearly 2-mile circuit with 14 turns plays host to the American Muscle Series.
You know, Adam, if you've never had a chance to drive Rudskogen, you count yourself as one of the lucky ones, because this is a difficult track. Whether it's here or even in an MX-5, Formula 1600, so on and so forth. In fact, so difficult, Mark Genet holds a track record back in 2013 in a Ferrari F10 with a 109.507. The closest we can get to a car here is a GT4, and that track record in real life is held by Philip Frommenweiler in the 718 Cayman for Porsche Sprint Challenge Scandinavia with a 127.169. So it kind of gives you a feeling of what we're going to see here tonight with a 40-minute race. It's going to be quite interesting for a lot of the drivers.
It will be indeed. Of course, you just mentioned it is a 40-minute race with a pit stop tonight. So some of these drivers are going to be fairly happy. But talking with some drivers prior to the race, tire wear is not going to be much of a concern here tonight. So I think that might put a little bit of relief in the driver's hands.
You know, what's interesting is with this being a 36-year-old course, you'd think that, you know, wear and tear would be a big problem here, but not so much. So it'll be interesting to see what happens. The mix of high velocity corners, and you got the S's and a lot of good braking zones. It's gonna bring the action, I think, tonight.
It very well will. Looking at qualifying times, Taylor Ballant, your fastest man on the racetrack, in 1:33.752. Luis Henriquez, just 44 thousandths of a second away from the 21. Andrew Belling right now 2/10 away from that pole. And then we get into some of the Challenger division drivers of Mark Cohn. Right now, just currently a 10th off of P3. Andy Bell right now, 89 thousandths of a second from the top of the leaderboard in the Challenger division. And that's going to be a battle to keep our eyes on, as Neil Kemp now goes 4th fastest and David Moore to 5th fastest. Other notable drivers, Tom Wendt right now, 30 is currently sitting 27th. He is the leader right now in the AM class. And let's take a look at the series points right now. Neil Kemp on top of the board when it comes to the pro class with 184 points, with Luis Henriquez in second, Taylor Ballant in third with 168 points. Jeff Schnackle right now 162 points. David Moore 157. Andrew Belling right now with 147. Chuck Labano 140. Cam Porter 131 points, and then a big gap between Cam Porter and Brandon Renfro. He sits with 111. And then David Fench right now rounds out the top 10. Other notables, Jay Bass, Matt Thompson, David Fernandez, Ron Wolf, and of course last week, Mike Malone joining us at San Diego. But Jeremy, as we look at the pro class here, things are starting to heat up at the top.
Yeah, and you see Kemp and Henriquez really nice and tight. And you're good to see Matt Malone here last week as well. Hopefully we'll see more and more of him. I know we'll see him at the Sim Gaming Expo when we roll into there in September. But yeah, the top, it's still anybody's race here between Kemp, Henriquez, Ballant, and Schnackle.
Let's head over to the Challenger division here. Mark Cohn on top, 184 points. Michael Brennan, 170 points. Then there's this nice little gap between second and third with Jeff Andrus, 147 points. Charles Hosey right now, 144. Andy Bell, 140 points. So he is in the mix here in the top 5. And then Joe Cicchetti right now is 139 points. Brandon Smith, 125 points in 7th. Dave Jansen, 8th right now. 9th goes to Mike Nickum and Zachary Miller, making out the top 10. Now to the amateur standings here. Andy Kosick goes to the top of the board after winning back-to-back weeks here in the AM division with 179 points, but he has an 8-point gap between him and Tom Wendt. Brandon Carl making up that 3rd spot with 169 points. Jesnard in the 4th spot. John Casey rounding out the top 5. Paul Catlon right now with 110 points. Colin Olson, 88 points. And then a nice, decent-sized gap between him and Merle Eichmann and Scott Brooks. So, Jeremy, when we look at the points of both the Challenger and the Amateur divisions, I mean, it's pretty tight still at the top. Nobody really running away with it so far.
Well, no, especially since now we're getting into the meat of the schedule. You've got this race, Coda coming up, Portland, which we'll talk more about that because that's got another wrench in the plans. So you've got some very historic tracks that are coming through. It's some very challenging tracks, to say the least, throughout the season as Checkered Flag comes out on this qualifying session. So we're just about set for 40 minutes of racing. And I think right here, if you ask me what the wild card is this season, it's going to be right here at Rudskogen.
All right, let's take a look at our starting lineup here. 34 drivers will take the green flag here tonight. Taylor Ballant and Luis Henriquez are on the front row. Row 2, Andrew Belling and Neil Kemp. David Moore, Mark Cohn make up row number 3. Mark Cohn currently fastest amongst the Challenger division. Andy Bell also in the Challenger division, and Matt Thomsen make up row 4. Jeff Schnackle and Michael Brennan in row number 5. David Fernandez, Chuck Labano in row 6. Row 7 will go to Cam Porter and Charlie Hosey, and then Jeff Andrus and Levi Powell. Joe Cicchetti is currently in the 17th spot along with Dan Ott. Then Jay Best and Aaron Bray make up row 10. Brandon Smith, Andy Kosick, row number 11, and row 12, Matthew Guzenda and Zach Miller. Then row number 13, Colin Olson, Tom Wendt, Edgar Sancinelli, Dave Jansen make up the 14th row. Laura Weissman and Mike Nickum in the 15th row. Scott Brooks, Merrill Eichmann make up row number 16. And our final row, John Casey and Paul Catlon. So that is your running order here for Rudskogen for 40 minutes around this nearly 2-mile racetrack. Here we go. Lights will come on here. And we will have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 lights on. And 5 lights go out. And away we go. Looks like a little bit of a stall further back here. A little bit of contact with David Moore back there. David Moore, not a great start. Here comes Luis Henriquez, though, to take the lead as they go through the first corner through turn number 2. What a start there by the number 6. And now driver still trying to remain on track. We got a spinner through turn number 2. And that is not good whatsoever. Cam Porter getting spun out through turn number 2. Very, very early to have issues in this one, Jeremy.
Yeah, Porter with the spin right there. No surprise that a lot of drivers deciding to take the runoff there in turn number 1, but Henriquez holding off Ballant for the lead so far as you see them two nose to tail. Look who's back there in 4th as well. You got the watchman Mark Cohn sitting there in 4th place, a good distance back from Andy Bell, who's actually in 5th place, and that battle for the lead right now in the Challenger class. Not going to do too much for as they work their way into coming out of the S's, actually, and they'll set up for the long run coming out of turn number 8, uphill turn 9, and into 10. Now, here's the thing. What's interesting about this track, Adam, is the fact that, yes, you do have a lot of twisty parts, but there are 2 very good passing zones. One of them, obviously, is going into turn 1, the other into turn 3.
Dan Ott on our screens now, getting to the back bumper of Edgar Sancinelli. He is deep in the field for a pro driver here tonight, so he's got a lot of work to do as Edgar Sancinelli currently amongst the Challenger division. Colin Olson now leading the AM division here, so he will be happy with this as well. So he will have to move himself forward if he wants to collect a good haul of points. He's got 2 drivers between him and Merrill Eichmann, and you can see and on the top of the screen, there's your leaders. Let's go to a replay of what exactly happened here into turn number 1. There's the spin out there with the 135 of Michael Brennan. And Michael Brennan, unfortunately, not a good night, not a good start to his night. And then you can see up the road a little bit further, that's Cam Porter being spun out as well.
Yeah, not a good start to the race. Here comes a 228 into the wall. Tom went with a slide as he's going to make his way back onto the circuit. And we're going to see a lot of that with some of these corners because, Adam, a lot of these corners are very deceiving on how you can make your way around. Of course, you got a battle for position back here for 6 with Schnekel and a couple other comers in Belling and more. This is not only a battle for overall position, but it's a battle in the pro class right now as they work their way coming off into the heading towards the 3rd sector into 13. Now the right-hander of turn 14. It's so sweeping right there as Schnekel gets back onto the throttle ahead of everybody else. Belling having to fall into line.
Well, as everybody sort of still figuring themselves out, if you look at that gap between P5 and P6, it's quite a big gap, especially on this 2-mile circuit as we look at P4 Mark Cohn in the Joy of Driving machine tonight. Good to see him. And he has a slowdown, actually, so he is going to have to bleed off some time. Side by side, though, in front of him for the 2nd spot, Taylor Ballant and Neil Kemp currently going to battle, and that's what Luis Henriquez wants to see. And there's a big crash going through the S turns here. I think that was what, turn 6 is what we can determine there. And Neil Kemp getting spun out. 2 cars fighting for the same piece of tarmac, and unfortunately, that is a rough go there for Neil Kemp. Here we go, looking at this again. There's the 99. That's Neil Kemp on the inside of the 21, and bam, not ideal whatsoever for Neil Kemp, but good avoidance by the number 21 driver of Taylor Ballant. So, but unfortunate there, Jeremy, for Neil Kemp as he drops down the order down to 24th.
And here's the thing, if Henriquez runs into any problems, that will give the lead to a challenger driver in Mark Cohn. There is Henriquez. Of course, we've already seen a lot of argy-bargy here in these first 5 minutes, I should say. Kosick, Labano, and Bray all in the pits right now. I think Labano's done for the day, so that's 1 out. But either way, you see Henriquez opening up about a 2-second gap to Mark Cohn and Andy Bell, although your top 6 are starting to get strung out. Yeah, you have to go all the way back to 6 to find David Moore racing anybody, and that's Jeff Schnekel for that 6th spot. There's Matthew Gazenda in the 15th spot. He's got Brandon Smith slowly but surely closing in through 3.
Well, looking further back, Levi Powell on our screen now in the 103 machine. You can just tell they're fighting tooth and nail for positions. He's having to defend it from Jay Bass. Jay Bass right on the back bumper, smelling the exhaust pipe of the 103 machine. But right now, everybody kind of calming it down as we continue on here. And this is kind of what we expected here for Rudskogen. Passing is going to be absolutely very, very difficult around here. And really the main concern for all the drivers tonight is basically avoiding the incident limit here. So you can't, you don't want to get a bunch of off tracks and everything. You've just got to keep yourself going straight.
Well, it's key in any races. You see Merrill Eichmann letting Brennan go by. That's for the 21st position overall. Remember, kids, I talk for them, so that's all fun. Ballant with a 33.841, and somebody's dropping like a rock right there. Could we go 3 wide into 1? Discretion is the better part of valor as Powell decides he's not going to get involved in this Hosey Thomsen battle. As you see Thomsen now sitting there, and back there Powell also joining in the 103. And so Jay Bass was back there, so my apologies there as they go down to probably one of the best drafting opportunities. Here's Labano, and this is exactly why he's out of the race, trying to Tokyo drift around, and something looks like he had some sort of hardware failure because that thing just all of a sudden snapped straight.
That's unfortunate there for Labano here as we take a look at the number 33 of Matt Thomsen. And he is trying to move himself forward. He's got Charlie Hosey on in his front windshield right now, but behind him, Levi Powell is right there as well, and Jay Bass. So a little bit of a train race happening with these three. Actually, there's about 5 cars amongst this train currently, but not a whole lot of movement happening. And at some point, we're going to see a little bit of, I would say, more strung out type racing where it's going to be really hard to make up the pace difference, and you're just going to be hoping for a mistake in front of you to be able to really gain some spots. But pit strategy is going to be the game around here as we take a look at Michael Brennan here, the 135. He will get around the 224, or the 124, excuse me, of Zach Miller. And that is for a position here that is for 19th here. And Michael Brennan has got a long ways between him and Edgar Sancinelli.
Well, you got to stop and figure, too, that these cars, back in their heyday in the mid-2000s, they were made for no pit stops. So no fuel, no tires. They had to last the 35 to 40 minutes that they were basically made for. The BF Goodrich tires were very durable back then. So, it's no surprise that at some point, these tires are going to come up to temperature, they're going to come up to grip, and all of a sudden they're just going to have to go, they're just going to spread out. As you see Colin Olson with a mechanical black flag, he is into the pits. Andy Bell, though, closing in on Mark Cohn. That's for second overall leader in the challenge class. By the way, real quick, Adam, you got to go all the way back to Merle Eichmann, who is leading in the AM class in 21st position. So if he wants to get maximum points, he's going to have to, well, first of all, that's a good thing with Cam Porter getting around Scott Brooks, but he's still going to have to climb his way through. So the best that he can hope for at this point is some sort of, we'll just say, attrition.
You are exactly right there, and unfortunate there for Colin Olson, who was leading in the AM class and is now just leaving the pits. So let's take a look. What happened here to Olson? Got a little bit squabbly and then a tag from behind, and into the guardrail he went. And you can tell just how much damage that did. That is absolutely crushing for Colin Olson. And now and we go back to Andy Bell here. Andy Bell challenging for the Challenger Division lead. And now we head over to Edgar Sancinelli, who's into the pits here. And we were predicting this a little bit, that about the fuel window would open up within the first 5 to 6 laps. And that's actually just a little bit later as we go back out to the Challenger Division race lead battle here. And Taylor Ballant is actually behind these two. He's a pro driver, so he's getting a very good seat of these two racing it out, and he's kind of hoping that these two make a mistake so he could pass through to go to third and possibly second overall. So that is going to be something to keep an eye out for Taylor Ballant here. He's not going to press the issue because he probably understands that these two are racing for class position. But at some point, he's going to want to make the move because he is losing a ton of time to Luis Henriquez right now, who is 4.4 seconds up the road from second.
Yeah, still plenty of time for something to happen. Of course, pit strategy going to play into that as well. As Bell, he's going to let Ballant go by. As Belling comes into the pits, what a juke there by David Moore. As not only does he get around Bell, he also gets around Ballant for position. Man, that was an absolutely fantastic pass down the straightaway as the 21 starts to open up a gap of about 0.3 of a second and starts to shake down Mark Cohn. But here's the thing, because of that battle there with Ballant and Bell, they've opened up basically opened up a wide margin between them and Mark Cohn, as now he's 4.4 seconds ahead of Ballant and the rest of the crew. There's the 139 Friedel Sport Racing Joy of Driving Mustang making his way now through the S's, setting up for turn number 8. One of the two long sweepers. As you got a left-hander at 8 and 14 is the other one, the right-hander.
Let's take a look. with Ballant. Just got a tag. Well, he tagged somebody and spun them out and avoided. Our cameras almost caught that in live action. Just was a little bit over to the right, and unfortunate there for Andy Bell, but David Moore, the lucky beneficiary of that as well. And we are going back live, looking on the board here with David Moore, with Team Woo. And still on a replay here. I mean, he is doing some great navigating. Oh, that could have been a disaster. That could have been an absolute disaster there for Moore, but good driving there. And Mark Cohn, well, he's going to be happy about this, having a big gap behind him, but he still has a 5-second gap to the race lead. Heading back, look at this gaggle of cars. Jay Bast amongst them right now in the number 53. And he is right behind Matt Thomsen. He has been trying to get around the 33 for quite some time, but you can tell now that this is a nice little train here with Joe Cicchetti and Charlie Hosey right now. That's for fighting inside to the top 10. But I will say here, Jeremy, Rudskogen is probably one of the more unique sightseeing tracks on the calendar here for the American Muscle Series, really based in a nice wilderness area, kind of like Spa-Francorchamps is.
He really is, and of course, when I learned this track, and that's all I did, because I spun it once, spun it 2, 3, 4, you name it, I probably most likely spun at it. But in all seriousness, you take a look at the track map and it's like, oh, there's not much here. But look at the elevation changes, especially when you work your way onto that front straightaway. You got that dip in turn number 13, and then once you go to 14, that's where you start to rise and then come back down as you make your way onto the final portion of the race circuit. You're on board with Hosey as you see some of that undulation. It's subtle, but then again, we're so used to here in the States, when you have that undulation, it's very noticeable. Take a look at Barber, Road America, tracks like that actually have a lot of elevation. We're spoiled with that as Fernandez tries to go around Schnankel for that 6th spot overall. That's going to be for 4th in class. Fernandez gets the spot for now, but Schnankel has the run there as Fernandez has to take a slowdown penalty. So, while the layout is challenging, it still lays credence to what is an absolutely fantastic track here in the service.
Well, Schnankel doing a great job in P6 after a win here last week, as a couple has just been out of his grasp. So he had a great win at San Diego, drove that racetrack like he owned it. As we look here with Jeff Andrus, the 104 machine now. He is really the man leading this very long train of cars and having to defend from Joe Cicchetti and Charlie Hosey, Matt Thomsen, Jay Bass. I mean, Levi Powell's probably going to get into the mix here soon, along with Matthew Guzenda. And this is going to be a very interesting race in this midfield pack as we continue on here. Also want to mention our current hard charger of the race goes to Paul Cantlon right now. Excuse me, it's not Paul Cantlon, as my screen not showing me the correct one. It's going to be Merle Eichmann. Merle Eichmann right now, up 14 spots. As an AM division driver, he's got him and Mike Nickum between him and Scott Brooks. As we now go towards some pit cycles here, Matt Thomsen and Levi Powell into the pits now. So they will come in, refuel, and get back out there. And really, it's going to come down to strategy. When do you pit? Can you make an undercut happen for yourself? Here's David Fernandez hounding Jeff Schnankel here. And this could get very interesting here, because I think David Fernandez may have a little bit more pace on Schnankel right now. And as I look at my timing, no, he does not. He's actually got about 0.2 of a second slower than Jeff Schnankel, excuse me. David Fernandez right now just pushing the issue a little bit here, maybe put on a little bit of pressure on our race winner last week. So lots of pit stops happening early on in this race.
Of course, we're almost to the halfway point here at Rudskogen. Your leaders in class, you see at the top of your screen here, Luis Henriquez, who's basically led from the lights out. There he is right there, already holding a 6-second gap to your challenger class leader. That's Mark Cohn coming off the final corner. He also sits in second place. And of course, you mentioned the hard charger right there, Merle Eichmann. Remember how I said he's got to get higher up in the standings? Well, there he is right now in 16th place, but the problem is he still can't shake Scott Brooks away from him. Yeah, he's got Nickum right between the two of them, but still, that's an extra position that he would like to see grow throughout the race. And of course, pit stops could play a huge part in this race. So lots to play for here as you see Andy Kosick in the 32nd spot, that number 250 Most Mint Racing Mustang, all orange. And I gotta say, Adam, as an announcer, I do like that all orange. It makes it very easy to spot.
Oh, it is. It's very easy to spot. But we got to mention, he's the amateur points leader, and I think that car has seen some better days than tonight. You can see a little bit of body damage to that race car, so you got to wonder what exactly happened to Andy Kosick early on, as there was quite a bit of action happening in the early part of this one. But he currently sits in 32nd right now behind Tom Wendt. And now let's take a look here. What has happened to David Moore? Man, that is a hard hit into the guardrail. And he went immediately to the pits. That is unfortunate there for the 13 machine. And, oh, man, David Moore, meatball, back down to 30th now. But the beneficiary of that was everybody else behind him. Is now, you can see David Fernandez still hounding Jeff Schnackle right now, the number 23. Jeff Andrus in 7th right now. Charlie Hosey in 8th. Joe Cicchetti right now in 9th. DJ Bast in 10th. So even though things are really spreading out, Jeremy, anything is still possible. This is not an easy racetrack to navigate. It just takes one slip here, or somebody trying to make a pass at the wrong time, and you can see yourself like David Moore.
Well, there's on board from Jansen as starts to work his way towards that third sector. A little bit of a spin. Let's see if there's more to that spin. Thankfully, no, as he's able to get that car started. Yeah, you see Moore with a mechanical black flag as he is into the pits. There's Cam Porter now for his pit stop. And, oh, that was interesting, as he had to do a little bit of a jump there. Not sure if the car was not done yet or what exactly happened with the 71, but he is falling down through the order. And you know, here's the thing. We talked about last week how everything was so tight at Coronado, but you had a lot of runoff room in some of your most important places. Here, not so much. This bleeds every bit of a 36-year-old racetrack as Mark Cohn makes his way around the circuit once again. Let's see if he decides to call time on his pit. Indeed, he is not. And everybody's really got to watch themselves, Adam, because even the pit entry and exit here is very tight.
It can be very tight, and the way that the pit entry works off of turn 14, it's straight, but then it bends a little bit before you even get there. It's kind of a little bit of a maze to get to this pit lane. So keep an eye out on that if anybody decides that they're going to overshoot it. So there's a good look of what this pit entry looks like. So you can overshoot it and go into the wall and have a rough time getting back to your pit stall and maybe cause a little bit more damage than what you were hoping for. As we go to battle for the second spot, Taylor Ballant, Mark Cohn right now battling it out here. Taylor Ballant, he's been very happy with how his race has been going here tonight because, well, Andy Bell's now behind him, and now he's got to figure out a way to get around Mark Cohn right now. And fun fact for this season, this is the highest that a Challenger driver has been in the overall standings, with Mark Cohn running second right now. So that is actually very cool to see. Some of these Challenger guys really showing that they have good top speed against these pro drivers. And looks like Mark Cohn says, you know what, Taylor Ballant, you can go ahead and go on by. Doesn't even want to fight it. He's not fighting for this in class. So very smart move there, Jeremy, to allow Ballant through.
Oh, yeah. I mean, Cone, I've heard nothing but how much he's learning so far. And, not just this car, but all around the service. So seeing Mark make his way up through the pack is no big surprise here, as he's really learning what it takes to be a good racer here in iRacing, which as well as I do takes a lot of practice. So the Frito Sport Racing Team number 139, let's build a lot by, lets him get out there, get a big gap at the same time. I would imagine that he's learning a lot too behind Ballant, because Ballant, he's not a slouch either.
As things start to, again, slowly spread out, we're seeing more and more smaller battles as we go on here, as we are now 23 minutes into this one, and Ballant just growing the gap ever so slightly, and he still has 7 seconds between him and Luis Henriquez. Well, Jeremy, you've got the rig, the screens, and the passion. But when you're driving into the corkscrew at Laguna Seca, do your pedals feel like a world-class GT3 car or a toy?
Well, I'd say they feel like a toy.
Well, it's time to upgrade your immersion with D-Nut Stuff. We specialize in high-performance sim racing mods designed to give you the trail-breaking precision and throttle control you've been missing. From our legendary DNX and HBD pedals, kits, and to custom spacers and clutch mods, we build gear for racers who deem more than stock. Whether you're a casual Sunday driver or a daily iRacing grinder, our kits for Fanatec, Simpson, and Huskenfeld pedals are engineered to help you find those extra tenths of a second. Stop settling for good enough and start hitting your marks with total confidence. D-Nut Stuff Sim Racing Gear. Serious mods for serious racers. Visit dnutstuff.com and dial in your rig. Thank you. And we'll put up the D-Nut car himself, Mike Nickham, here, as he is currently battling it out. Well, he's kind of driving a little bit of a lonely race right now. He's got a 1.9 second gap behind him and a 1.5 second gap in front of him. So he's kind of in between a couple of race cars here, Jeremy. But the D-Nut Stuff car of the 157, Mike Nickham, in the D-Nut Stuff Frito Sports 157. Kind of a race here, but sometimes you can't ask for much action when you're on a racetrack that's very, very difficult to pass on.
And exactly, as you see John Casey coming into the pits, something that I've noticed too is the longer that we get into this race, Adam, you're starting to see these cars rotate. And I'm not talking about a spin. I'm talking about that magic when the back end just is a little free, gets there and it's one with the racetrack. So that's something to watch out for throughout the race, is how these drivers handle a rotating race car, as you see Luis Henriquez. Because correct me if I'm wrong, but I think that this did not, the FR500S did not have the independent rear suspension. So you still had to get around there and quote unquote muscle your way around and make sure that you're able to get that car. Yeah, you see Henriquez, how he's working the wheel, going through 3 now, setting up for turn number 4, trying to get that car to rotate on the back end so he can just easily work his way around the circuit.
Luis Henriquez doing great job here. Took the lead right away on the opening lap here at Rudskogen and getting around Taylor Ballant here. Not quite sure what happened to Taylor Ballant, and be kind of curious to know, did the start just not go exactly how he wanted? Did it is a standing start, so sometimes guys, when they drop the clutch to get going, I mean, it can cause sometimes a little bit of wheel spin or something like that. So for Taylor, and actually we got a replay of what happened here on the race start here. There is Taylor Ballant right there, the 21 machine, and just ready to go, gets going here. Doesn't appear to have much wheel spin. It just looks like Luis Henriquez was just a little bit quicker off the start here, Jeremy.
Yeah, sometimes that's all it is. It's just timing the start ever so slightly, and that's how you win races in drag racing, and that's how you win good positions here on the start. As we're watching this battle for position, this is Dan Ott in the 19th position. He's battling Edgar Sancelli as they work their way through the S's once again. As Sancinelli trying to see if he can work his way up through the Challenger class. He's a little bit further back than he'd like, but he's surrounded by a bunch of pro drivers. So we'll see how that works out for him. But Neil Kemp, one of the drivers who we thought would do well, he's fallen back 17 spots. Look at how bent up that front end is in that number, in the number 99. Sorry, kind of hard to tell which number it is on my end, but either way, still working his way through onto the final couple of corners here on this race course.
Neil Kemp right now, who unfortunately was the victim of an earlier spin. You can see a little bit of damage on the front end of that race car. Currently running 20th behind Dan Ott, and has a 1.2 second gap to make up here. And Ron, I'm looking here. Do we have any other hard chargers we can start talking about here? Well, it looks like Scott Brook right now. And Lewis Henrik is into the pits now. And he will refuel and get back out on the race course here. Taylor Ballant has yet to come into the pits. Mark Cohn will be happy about this, though. He will take that second spot back, but he still has to pit as well, as David Fernandez also in along with Charlie Hosey. So 3 cars into the pit lane here this time around. So again, guys gonna just pack her with fuel and away they go here. So one of the big things that we got to keep monitoring, though, is Taylor Ballant's pace. Does Ballant have the pace to maybe eke out a little bit of an advantage, so when he pits, he can at least cut down the gap here? I mean, it was nearly 7 seconds. There's the pit stop time on your screen here. So you can see the ones with blanks in them, well, they have not pitted yet. So I would imagine Taylor Ballant will be thinking about coming down pit road here, as we are about to the 30-minute mark here. And he would be much later than majority of the field, Jeremy, which is kind of an interesting strategy to go on. But when you're trying to make up over 7 seconds to the race lead, you're willing to do pretty much anything.
Exactly. And all you have to do, get out there, run fast lap after fast lap after fast lap. That way you can set yourself up for that undercut. Let's see what Ballant does around these couple of corners. Looks like he is going to come into the pits this time by, and that will hand the overall lead. Actually, he will not pit, I apologize, as Ballant, Cohn, and Bell, 1, 2, 3. However, who will pit is a Schnackle, as he proves me right, thankfully at least, down through the pit road, and he's going to bring Chiacchetti and Bast along with him.
That could have been an absolute disaster on our screens here with Jay Baz. He's almost getting his nose with the 101 there. That could have been a little bit dangerous there, but Joe Cicchetti right now, he'll be fine, but that was a close call in pit road, and that could have ended not one driver but 2 drivers' day just going in for a refuel here. As Zach Miller running 7th right now, he still needs to pit. Mark Cohn, Andy Bell, Jeff Andrus, Matt Uzenda, all needing to pit. Andrew Belling, currently running 8th fastest in the number 24 car, and be kind of interesting to see his next coming weeks here, because again, I would like to go back all the way to our first race, Jeremy, at Sandown, where unfortunately for Belling, he was leading till he was not. So unfortunate there, race there. But for this pro class, the points battle as Taylor Ballant now into the pits from the lead, and we'll have to see where he will come out, as well as Mark Cohn. Andy Bell is in. I wonder if Jeff Andrus will come in as well. It does not appear so. Yes, he will. Does Guzenda pit here this time. Do we get the remaining? Yes, the remainder of our drivers who have yet to pit are coming in this time. Zach Miller is going to be, looks like the last man to pit. Here's Taylor Ballant as he refuels. Luis Henriquez will go back out to the race lead here, Jeremy, and he is going to be very, very comfortable out there in front.
I was going to say it had to have been a 28-second delta that Ballant would have had to have done, and that was going to be next to impossible, especially with the long pit stop that he had. He could have gotten away with a 9-second pit stop and been okay, but still, his pit stop compared to Henriquez's pit stop was about 1.5 seconds longer, which I'm wondering if some sort of setting wasn't clicked right, but either way, Henriquez to the point. Mark Cohn gets back out there. He's leading by about 2 seconds in the challenge class. So still, Zach Miller set himself up for a podium for now. He is yet to pit, so that's something to think about as well.
Andy Bell's stop, 9.9 seconds. Fastest pit stop that we actually have on the board. Actually, I think we have one even faster, but I don't think my timing screen is saying that correctly. Charlie Hosey's? Okay, yeah, no, that was definitely not correct. It says it was 5.68 seconds, according to my live timing screen. Dave Jansen, 7.9. Where in the world did that come from, Jeremy?
Yes. No, seriously. I mean, here's the thing. That's something that I would expect out of a much later pit stop. So, let's see. When did he pit? Lap 2? He's going to have to come back in again, and unless he's trying some sort of Scott Dixon-like habdashery. But you see Zach Miller now make his way into the pit, so that should be all the pit stops as we're approaching 36 minutes left to go in this race.
And looking here at just the pit lane time between Luis Henriquez and Taylor Ballant, nearly 3 seconds of pit lane time between those two. And I mean, and the pit time was just over a second. So the 3 seconds must have been on entry or exit or somewhere for Taylor Ballant, and that's unfortunate there because he would probably be just a little bit closer without without that extra time in the pit lane itself. But as time starts to tick away, Joe Cicchetti right now in the Frito Sport 101 machine here. He's got Jay Bast right behind him. Jay Bast up 10 spots here, and I would say, well, he is our hard charger. Maybe not. Yes, he is going to be the hard charger. So right now, good to see him up the leaderboard here, Jay Bast. And he is going to try and get around Joe Cicchetti, but Cicchetti right now, he is actually going to be challenging for the Hard Charger Award here tonight, as he is up 9 spots, and he's got David Fernandez right in front of him. So a 3-car battle here for the 7th position as we have under 5 minutes to go here at Rudskogen here on the American Muscle Tour, live on Slow Motion Broadcasting. And we want to welcome you folks in and hope you're enjoying today's race, sponsored by D-Nut Stuff and Chiba Hut. And we'll thank Chiba Hut here in just a moment, but we want to keep our eyes on this battle here as David Fernandez in the 09 machine, having to defend against Joe Cicchetti and Jay Bast right now. Charlie Hosey, I would keep an eye on that car as well. He's only 2.3 seconds down the road and could catch up if something were to happen here. But we get to enjoy some of the scenic views here of Rudskogen. And thank you to Ron Maunz and Whiplash Cameras for providing such great views of this beautiful racetrack here today. And I'm the type of guy here, Jeremy, that when I'm driving around Spa, Rudskogen, or even just some oval racetracks, just seeing the scenery all around me. I mean, it's kind of distracting a little bit, isn't it?
It really is, especially with a lot of these race courses and some of the most beautiful locales that you see, in Europe, the United States, Asia, everywhere basically. Heck, I would even put Bathurst as one of the most scenic places too. But then again, I'm biased. I love me some supercars racing. But yeah, look at these trees that you see here. Absolutely beautiful facility here. And look, the nice little go-kart track on the inside.
Yeah, nice little dirt go-kart track. I'm always appreciative of those. As Andy Bell currently sitting fourth right now and is trying to catch up to Marcone. He has a 1.2 second gap to make up here, and Andrew Belling right now half a second away from Andy Bell. So it's the Andy versus Andrew show, Jeremy, which could be interesting. Might be able to tell who's the better Andy in that case. Jeff Schnackle also sitting in 6th. As we go further back, three-way battle here between Levi Powell, Matt Thomsen, and Jeff Andrus. So this could get interesting for 11th here as Jeff Andrus going a little bit further. Here's what happened with Jeff Andrus here. And Matt Thomsen getting a little bit wide into the grass, and that's what is causing a little bit of this kerfuffle. We go down this nice gradual downhill. And you mentioned this earlier, Jeremy, the undulation. I mean, you can't really tell. It's just kind of just nice and gradual and just a nice little comfortable racetrack as we are now on the white flag lap here. Luis Henriquez leading Taylor Ballant by 6.4 seconds. And let's see what happened here to Dan Ott. Going up and
Well, the back end wanted to see what the front end's looking at. Yeah. Here's the thing. When it comes to Rudskogen, if you can master this track, you can master darn near anything. So really to see Henriquez with a 6-second lead, to open that up. And that's even with pit stops. As you see Belling, he did get around Bell, so he was belling around Bell as they work their way through the S's right now. Either way, this is such a fantastic track, and if you can master this, the world's your oyster, especially in a spec car series like this.
Luis Henriquez, 6.3 seconds up the road. Taylor Ballant has closed the gap by over 2 seconds, but I don't think it's gonna be enough here as Luis Henriquez looking to pick up his first win this season here at American Muscle Series as he gets ready to come around to the front straightaway here. Luis Henriquez wins here at Rudskogen. What a drive there by the number 6. Great drive. Taylor Ballant will come home to second. Mark Cohn going to finish on the podium tonight overall and win the Challenger division here, holding off Andy Bell and Andrew Belling. Belling will finish 4th. Andy Bell will finish in 5th. Take a look, the move on with Andrew Belling right now, and side by side as they go down into turn 1, and just like that. Well, that was a quick, easy move there for Andrew Belling. So, and Merle Eichmann leading the AM class division as he will look to pick up his first win amongst the AM drivers here tonight. That 225 machine just had to keep it pointed forward. Probably the cleanest car, one of the cleaner cars out there today. And up 10 spots, tied for the Hard Charger Award with Jay Best, but the honors will go to Jay Best since he finished higher in the running order. But Merle Eichmann now into turn number 14. And Eichmann will pick up his very first win in the AM class this season. Well, we have one more sponsor we would like to thank here as we finish up this one, and that is Chiba Hut. Look, we've all been there. You're staring at a menu of sad, cold corporate sandwiches and thinking, There's got to be something better than this. At Chiba Hut, we've been flipping the bird to the status quo since 1988. We're not just making sandwiches, we're curing the munchies with the dankest toasted subs on the planet. From our signature White Widow to the Cloudy Mist, every sub is homegrown, toasted to perfection, and served up in a joint where you can actually relax. Need to kill that cotton mouth? We've got local craft beers on tap and plenty of Kool-Aid to keep you hydrated. Whether you're stopping in or flying it to your door, we got exactly what you need to stay stoked. Chiba Hut Toasted Subs. Swing by our shop in your area or order online. Chiba Hut. Toasted since 1998. Well, folks, as we wrap up this one, we're going to take a time out. And when we come back, final results and interviews here with the American Muscle Series live on Slow Motion Broadcasting.
Does your feet hurt after a session of sim racing? Are you tired of the distraction from sore heels? If so, D-Nut Stuff has the solution for you. Our heel pads add support and comfort for your feet, so those long races are no longer painful. We can make a heel pad for pretty much any pedal set and even add your custom logo. So get one today. You won't regret it.
I can't count the times a race has been ruined by an AI car. The default iRacing AI drives like you are not even there much of the time. If you're like me, you want AI that is fun to race, not a demolition derby. I have spent a ton of time adjusting these AI rosters to make them as realistic as possible. The D-Nut Stuff adjusted AI rosters are more like racing a real person. The adjusted AI rosters will drive much, much cleaner than the default settings. Check them out. You won't regret it.
Is the brake on your new pedal set not meeting your expectations? If so, let D-Nut Stuff transform your braking experience. D-Nut Stuff has brake mods for Thrustmaster TLCMs, Husingveld Sprints, Mosa SRPs, Fanatec CSL Elite V1 and V2s, SimJack Pros, and UT sets. We are always working on adding new pedal sets and more, so check back often.
And welcome back here to Slow Motion Broadcasting with the American Muscle Series as Luis Henriquez wins here in the overall standings. And here are the race results, starting with our AM results. Oh, excuse me. We'll get that readjusted here as we get that technical difficulty squared away. There we go. Overall race results, Luis Henriquez is your race winner with Taylor Blount in second. Mark Cohn wins the Challenger class tonight with a third overall finish. And Andrew Belling finishes fourth. Rounding out the top five, Andy Bell finishes second amongst the Challenger division. Jeff Schnackle in sixth. Seventh will go to David Fernandez. Joe Cicchetti in eighth. Jay Bass ninth. Charlie Hosey rounding out the top 10, Matt Thomsen outside the top 10 in 11th with Jeff Andrus in 12th. 13th goes to Levi Powell, Matt Guzenda in 14th, Michael Brennan in 15th, Brandon Smith 16th, Neil Kemp in 17th, Dan Ott in 18th. 19th goes to Edgar Sancinelli, and rounding out the top 20 here is Cam Porter. Over to you, Jeremy.
As you take a look down the field, 21st, Zach Miller. Your AM winner, Merle Eichmann, finishes off in 22nd. 23rd, Mike Nickum. Laura Weissman, the last car on the lead lap, in 24th. Then you got Dave Jansen, Scott Brooks, John Casey, and Paul Cantlin, all one lap down in 28th. 29th, 2 laps down is Colin Olson. Tom Wendt, 30th, 3 laps down. The race includes Andy Kosick, David Moore, Chuck Labano, and Aaron Bray.
Well, we'll go ahead and talk to some of all three class winners, and we'll start off with our overall winner and pro class winner tonight, Luis Henriquez, joining us here. First off, Luis, congratulations on your first win here this season. It's got to feel good to get a win on what is a very difficult racetrack to race on.
Well, let me tell you that ironically, that was not the win that I wanted. I actually wanted Coronado because that's my favorite track on the whole calendar. But it's such a weird win to come by because I believe some guys had some issues behind me, and I was not feeling comfortable at all during the whole race. So I was just basically mailing it in.
Well, you got off to such a good start, getting by Taylor Ballant, heading into the first turn. Did you see that coming? Were you planning that, or did you just go, I'm going to seize this moment right now?
Well, I didn't even know how to react at the time because, first of all, I'm pretty sure that Taylor should have won this race on speed alone. So I was just pretty much hoping that I would just slide behind him and just try and hang on to him the whole race. But then he got a really not an ideal start, so I kind of took over. And then I was just not really getting going, and everyone was starting to bunch up behind me. And all of a sudden, there's some huge incident. I haven't looked at it yet, but I don't know. Like all of a sudden, I was alone on the track.
Well, you drove fantastically today. You dominated this race. Anybody you would like to thank for this win here tonight?
Yeah, actually, I would like to thank Jay Bass and also Jeffrey Snackle. He came in last week and he absolutely obliterated everyone else on pace. That was really awesome to see.
Well, next week we are headed towards, as I pull up my notes here, to Circuit of the Americas, and what will be an interesting race there. We're on the NASCAR West Circuit, so not the full length. What are some of the challenges that you're looking at next week?
Very similar to this track. It's going to be a lot of very technical application of everything. So you got to be so tidy on your break-in with all the hairpins, all the apexes, and so many compound radius corners that being the cleanest and tidiest one out there will probably get you the win.
Well, next week should be an interesting one, as well as it's a 40-minute race with pit stops. So do you like the pit stop, or do you not like the pit stop?
I prefer it. Depends on the track, actually, because I personally did not like it at Mid-Ohio because it just becomes a draft train. But at tracks like Coda, probably would be an interesting race with no pit stops. But at the same time, the pit stops, they kind of give you more flexibility on how you want to run your race. So you can either save fuel, or you can go more aggressive, or you can pit before and try to time the traffic. So it can change up the dynamics. It might not be as exciting to watch because they might get a little bit more spread out, but I personally like the flexibility, and I tend to do a little bit better than everyone else on pit stops, bar the Coronado race, that is.
Well, Lewis, congratulations on this win tonight, and we will see you next week from Coda.
Hey, thanks, and great broadcast as always, guys.
Thank you. All right, Luis Henriquez, our overall winner here tonight. And next, we'll pull in our Challenger class winner, Mark Cohn, and the joy of a driving machine tonight. Mark, that had to feel great, not only getting the class win, but getting on the podium.
Oh, my word. When this happened, gosh, last season at Mosport, I thought this would never happen again, and somehow, some way, I feel like I had the pace, everything held on, and we're on the podium, guys. How about that?
Yeah, podium finish and the class win. And of course, it was kind of a battle there with Andy Bell, and then you had Taylor Ballant involved. But one of the things I thought you did really well tonight is that you just let Taylor Ballant through and just didn't fight him for second. Well, was that just a way of just saying, you know what, we're not battling for class position here, so might as well just let him through?
I'd seen a wreck happen in front of me, which got me up to second, and then saw one behind me, which kept me in second for the longest time. When he got to me, I was not taking any chances. I'd seen enough carnage for this race. I just wanted to keep it clean, hold on to a podium, and it worked out. So, yes, that was, I guess you could say, one of those better safe than sorry decisions.
Well, it pays off in the end. Anybody you would like to thank for not only getting you this class win, but for getting you on the podium tonight?
Oh gosh, Frito Sport, best team ever. Ed, Mike, everyone there, everyone that runs American Muscle Series. I love racing here so much. All you guys at Slow Motion Broadcasting, I love watching these races back. Sim Gaming Expo, 40 Raceware, Sim Lab. I'm sure I'm forgetting some people. Nizumi Studios. Again, just everyone that makes this all possible, and TW3 Liveries for painting me this Kyle Busch paint scheme. It's so special to get my second podium in this league with this. We miss Kyle so much. Legend gone way too soon.
Well, congratulations, Mark, and we will see you next week at Circuit of the Americas.
Thank you, guys. Looking forward to it.
Mark Cohn, our winner in the Challenger class and a third place finish here tonight. Let's talk with Merrill Eichmann now, our AM division winner here tonight. Merrill, that was kind of a good, comfortable drive for you tonight. Feeling good after a race win, I would say.
Oh, I'm pretty darn pleased with that one. I mean, pick your way through all the carnage. Just put down decent laps and survive, and here we are at the end of it.
Well, you got the win. It's your first win, class win of the season here.
Maybe my career.
Maybe your career. I'm not sure. I would have to go a deep dive into the record book, but we'll say for the season for now. Just talk about the race in the AM class. I mean, it was definitely still a little bit of tight-knit racing, but seems like the best man won overall.
Oh, I wouldn't say that at all. There was so much going on in the first lap, cars backwards, forwards, and I just picked my way through. Honestly, I didn't see a whole lot of the other amateurs around me. I guess I ended up on the tail end of the Challengers or whatever. But, I just kept trying to be consistent and do my thing. And I know I'm not the fastest guy, but, if you can be decent, it was good. And everybody was good as far as once it all settled down, nice and clean. And, everybody races this group really well.
Yep. And it's always good when you come back with a clean race car, not a scratch on it tonight. That's got to feel really good, too, to know you avoided the carnage and everything early on.
Well, especially after last week when I brought it back in a basket.
Anyone you want to thank for the class win here tonight?
I got two people. I've got a buddy of mine that's been a friend of mine for a long time. He comes in and spots for me, Ian Koivunen. And I have to dedicate this one to my dad, who passed away at the beginning of the month. So somewhere he's up there happy.
Well, we're sorry to hear about your loss, but a good win here tonight. It's got to feel really, really well.
Yeah, it does. It feels great. And thank you, guys. You always do a great job. I will be getting out of the rig to watch the replay. So,
all right.
There we go.
Well,
thank you, gentlemen.
Yep, thank you, and we will see you next week at COTA.
Awesome. Thank you.
Merle Eichmann, our AM class winner. Well, Jeremy, how do we sum this one up?
Well, I've got to say this was a challenge for a lot of drivers, but if you're Luis Enriquez, it wasn't too much of a challenge for you. You took the lead from the get-go and never looked back. Great showing by Mark Cohn. And as we said, Merle Eichmann, not too bad either. He ran a fantastic race in that beautiful Indy 500-like paint scheme and the AM class. And really, looking at the schedule, if you thought that Rudskogen was tough, wait until we get to COTA next weekend on the NASCAR layout.
Yeah, that should be very interesting indeed. And next week, well, same time, same place here with the American Muscle Series on Tuesday night. Well, what else do we got coming up here on Slow Motion Broadcasting? I know we have the Sim Racers group going to happen here later on this evening. But tomorrow night, you can catch the Street Nights Racing from Le Mans at 7 p.m. Eastern. And then immediately afterwards, the Sim Racers Group F3 Fixed Series at Road America at 10 p.m. Then the Ricmatech GT3 Challenge, a new series here to Slow Motion Broadcasting live from Road Atlanta. Then the Ray Esports Racing on Sunday, August 2nd at 3:30 p.m. at Donington. And then we're back here on Tuesday night at 9 p.m. with the American Muscle Series from COTA with the NASCAR West layout. And at 10:20 p.m., the Sim Racers Group F4 live from Portland. So if you haven't filled up your week with good iRacing content, well, this is the place to be. And all you got to do is click on that subscribe button and notification bell. Even like this stream, share this out to your friends, your parents, your grandmother, and even your great-grandmother if you have to. We would love to see you all here. Well, Jeremy, thank you for all your work and effort here tonight. And also thank you to Ron for the producing and the man behind all the cameras. My name is Adam Thomsen. For everyone here from Slow Motion Broadcasting, the American Muscle Series, we will say good night, and we will see you next week from COTA.